Hey, welcome back to Life Sculptors Podcast. You know, I'm the host, Dante Poole. So good to be with you all today and to have conversation with you. On this podcast, we read children's books and we have a conversation about the deeper meaning of life and how it impacts our relationships with each other. And today is no less than that. No less than that. We get a lot of advice about investments, and what to invest in, like how to save money, how to invest early in our retirement, or and how to think about our future and making wise financial decisions so that we can feel a little more secure as we get older. And it's all good advice, right? It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But you don't hear as much about relational investments. Hmm. Like, what does it look like to invest in relationships that have the kind of impact that strengthens our future? Yeah, see, like some of the most significant moments in our lives, the moments where we needed support or community or encouragement, those moments came not from our bank accounts, they came from people. Mhm. And so it just raises this other question for me, and that is, what kind of investments are we making relationally? And then what kind of return are we getting on that investment? Yeah, see. Okay, all of those things require us to pay attention, right? Now, not to just what people do, but to how we see people. Because uh, I've noticed that depending on the moment, we tend to see people in a couple of different ways. Like sometimes we see them and they feel like a person, and other times they feel like an interruption. Yeah. Yeah, or they feel like an inconvenience. Or someone wants to ask me for something, and I don't even have the energy to give it. I, Sometimes I don't even want to give it. Hmm. Why I was thinking about this is because recently I had the opportunity to go visit my home state. I live in a different part of the country now, but I've got to visit my home state of New Jersey. And while I was there, it reminded me of how much environments shape how we move through life. Right, and up there, I mean, just everything was seems to be moving fast. I mean, there were cars weaving in and out of traffic. The people were trying to get somewhere as quick as possible. They didn't say hello. They barely made eye contact. And when you're in that kind of environment long enough, you start to feel it in your body. Like I could feel the tension of that. Like I was more on edge. I was more focused. I was more task oriented. Like we got to get this thing done. And without realizing it, the people around me started feeling like obstacles. And it could happen to all of us, right? Depending on the environment, people around us, they start feeling like obstacles. And it's not because we don't care, it's because urgency has taken over. And here's what I came to realize that it's not just environments, right? That sometimes there are experiences too that train us to live in urgency. And that urgency doesn't always turn off when we come out of that environment. Like I had to decompress on the way home, on the plane ride home, because it was like I was like wound tight. And that urgency, right? It's important because sometimes it just stays with us. And over time, it stops being like something we step into, it becomes something we live from. And some of us, we're not just living busy lives. No, no. We're living from a place of urgency that we never turned off. Like something happened, our urgency got turned on, and we never turned it off. And depending on what we've experienced, oh, like that hurt, that disappointment, that wound, those relationships that didn't turn out the way we wanted them to, or we hoped they would, or we expected them to, that urgency then becomes a kind of protection. Like we just stay alert, we stay guarded, we stay ready. And not because something's happening right now, but because something happened before, and we're still in survival mode. And so here's what it does to relationships, right? When you live from urgency long enough, connection starts to feel like an interruption, and slowing down feels uncomfortable, and presence feels costly, and people, even people we care about, they can start feeling like demands instead of relationships. Ah, urgency may have helped you survive, but it may also be limiting how you connect. Hmm. Man, that brings me to my story today. This little blue truck by Alice Schuler or Shirtle. I think that's how you say it. Schertle. Alice Shirtle, and illustrated by Jill McElmurray Trust. The little blue truck. Now it's a rhyming book, so I'm gonna have a little fun with it. Okay. Horn went beep. Engine purred. Friendliest sounds you've ever heard. Little blue truck came down the road. Beep, said Blue to a big green toad. Toad said croak and winked an eye when little blue truck went rolling by. Sheep said baa, cow said moo. Oink said a piggy, beep said Blue. Cluck said a chicken, and her chick said peep. Ma said a goat, and Blue said beep. Neigh said a horse, quack said a duck. Beep said the friendly little blue truck. Honk, yelled a dump truck coming through. I've big important things to do. I haven't got time to pass the day with every duck along the way. Vroom went the dump around a curve. He saw a puddle and he tried to swerve. Into the mud rolled the big fat truck, and his big important wheels got stuck. His heavy duty dump truck tires were sunk down deep in muck and mire. Honk, said the dump, and he sounded scared. I'm sorry. Honk, cried the dump, and he sounded scared, but nobody heard or nobody cared. Then into the mud, bump, 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 came the little blue truck to help the dump. Little Blue pushed with all his might, and now Blue and the dump were both stuck tight. Help, 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 cried the little blue truck. Beep, 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 I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Everybody heard that beep, beep, beep. The cow came running, and the pig and the sheep. Up at a gallop ran the big brown horse. Goat jumped over the fence, of course. Then him came flapping with the chick and the duck, and everybody pushed the little blue truck. Head to head and rump to rump, they all pushed Blue, who pushed the dump. They couldn't quite bulge that heavy load. Then who hopped up but the big green toad? All together, 1, 2, 3. One last push, and the trucks were free. Thanks, little brother, said Dump to Blue. You helped me, and they helped you. Now I see a lot depends on a helping hand and a few good friends. Beep, said Blue. Who wants a ride? Everybody scrambled to jump inside. Quack, oink, baa, moo, cluck, peep, neigh, croak, ma. Beep, beep, beep. The end. Oh, I love that book. The little blue truck. Man. So interesting. On that same trip to Jersey, I realized something else. Like I was attending the funeral of a family member, and being in that space, grieving together, supporting each other, remembering together, showing up for each other. I realized that relationships that were surrounding me were ones that didn't happen overnight. Like those were built over time, through conversations, through shared experiences, through our presence together. Those investments that they didn't feel significant at the time that I was making them. Years ago, some of them. But in that moment, it hit me. Those past investments were paying dividends right now. Not financially, relationally. Man, and the truth is this, you don't get to decide when you'll need those dividends, only whether you have invested in them ahead of time. Ah. Oh man, oh man. And so this simple story, when you step back from it, it's not just about kindness. It's about something deeper. It's about relational capital. And then there are some researchers who have talked about the importance of what this is. They say that relational capital is the trust and goodwill that are built between people over time. The trust and the goodwill that are built between people over time. And so you can kind of think about it like a bank account, right? Small deposits repeated over time. Like you greet somebody, you take a moment to recognize them, or you simply acknowledge that somebody matters, right? That they're a human being, not a human doing, right? As my friend Mary would say. And these small moments, like they feel like they're small, really, but they accumulate. I'm telling you, those investments accumulate, and when life gets muddy, and it's sure to get muddy, things are going to happen. That's when you find out what's really been built in those relationships. And so, if relational capacity, or capital, should I say, if relational capital is so valuable, then why don't we invest in it intentionally? Why don't we make the investment intentionally? I think part of the answer is that we've learned not to. Whether we've gotten burned in relationships, or the relationship didn't pan out, and so now we protect ourselves. And so others, uh, they sometimes they feel like it's just too risky to be in this relationship, or too draining because maybe the relationship has been lopsided. So your connection, it feels like a cost. Or you've only experienced relationships that are transactional. Hmm. And so you become efficient, you become guarded, you become self preserving in those relationships. See, in recovery spaces, we have a phrase that we use to describe this transactional nature of relationships, and we call it things for things. Oh man, it describes where everything in the relationship is an exchange. Like I give you this, you give me that. But nothing is freely given and nothing is freely received. It all comes with an expectation. And the problem is that that mindset doesn't just talk about relationships in the addictions world. It shows up in everyday life and in a lot of our relationships. And when relationships becomes transactional, like connection feels conditional, or a presence becomes strategic, or a giving becomes calculated. And over time, y'all, we don't build relationships. We just develop agreements. Hmm, man. But our hearts are really longing for relationships and not just agreements. And so it made me wonder, like, do I see people or do I evaluate them? Oh, no. See, we've been taught that real strength is being dependent, independent, should I say? Like you can handle it on your own. Like you don't need anybody. But that's not actually how life works, is it? Like really, we healthy life is built on interdependence. Y'all, we need. It's okay to need people. It's okay to need people. It's okay to build relationships intentionally. It's okay to invest in connections that may not be something you need today, but you might need later. And so what does it actually look like to invest relationally? It looks like acknowledging people when there's nothing to gain. Oh man, I'm not talking to you because I want something from you, or because of what I think you might give to me later, or what I might gain later by my connection with you. No, no, no. It's slowing down long enough to notice who's around you. Sometimes we're flying through environments, we don't even see the people that are there. It's choosing curiosity over assumption. It's being willing to discover more than you decide about what something is based on limited information. You've heard me say it before. You got to stay more curious than competent. And sometimes building or investing in relationships or relationally means giving without immediately calculating the return, without thinking about what's in it for me. Yeah, see? Or following up with someone that you don't have to follow up with. See, these are small deposits, but over time, they create something strong, y'all. They create something strong. And so it's so key for us to think about the investments that we're making in relationships, y'all. It's so key that we do this because they're gonna help us in the long run. And y'all, the question I want to ask you is this: what lens are you leading with today? Like, what lens are you using when you encounter other people? Are they just an irritant, an obstacle, an inconvenience? Or do you see them as people? I will tell you that one of my values is that I've never met a person that didn't matter. Like every single human being I've ever come into contact with matters. Like when I see a person, maybe they're on the street and they're homeless, or they look like they're in a struggle, or maybe they're behind the counter and they're serving me my food, or maybe they're in the car in the next lane and passing by me. Like there is not a single person that I've ever met that has no value. Every person matters. Like that was somebody's baby. Like when I see an adult, sometimes I go, yo, that person used to be in kindergarten. That person was in preschools. Like somebody cared for that kid. Somebody did some things, provided food and clothing and shelter and taught that kid some life lessons. Like somebody taught that person how to become. Hmm. What lens are you using when you encounter people? Because that lens will determine whether or not you're building a relationship or you're just completing a transaction. And I don't know about you, I don't want to be somebody's transaction. I'm not interested in things for things. I want to make an impact on somebody's life, and I want to receive the impact that they're going to make on me. I was recently reading something, and it says that when two souls come into contact with each other, there is an exchange. Like when two people come into contact with each other, there is an exchange. I'm just determined that what it is I'm going to exchange is something that's going to be for the good of the other person. That's it. Because here's the other thing I believe, that if you give, right, whatever you give, and how you give matters. I typically say it like this: you can't plant apple seeds and not get apples. You can't plant orange seeds and not get. I mean, unless something going on with the tree, it's not producing fruit. But that apple tree is not going to produce bananas. I'm not getting pineapples from orange trees. It means this, that the investment that I make, right, will bear fruit after its own kind. Mm. Yeah. So even when somebody is rude or mean or disrespectful to me, I don't meet them. I don't match their energy because I understand that principle that if I match their energy, then I get more disrespect. But if I meet that energy with respect, if I meet it with kindness, if I meet it with curiosity and understanding, if I extend grace, if I make space and room for them and try to discover what's really happening with them, who they really are, most of the time, what I get in return is respect. Because people have a need to be seen and to be heard and to belong. Here's my last question for you. Is the pace of your life allowing you to actually see people in your life? Or are you moving so fast that uh, you're missing the people around you? Mm. You don't build relational capacity or capital by accident. You don't build it by accident. It doesn't happen like you don't stumble into it. It happens because you're choosing to see people even when you don't want something from them. Make deposits and investments that are going to pay you dividends in your relationships later. Because we all are going to need somebody someday. Today might be your day. Hmm. Okay, okay. Hey, thanks for spending time with me today. Just listening and allowing my voice to be a part of whatever it is you got going on in your life. Thank you for that. And if this episode mattered to you, if you thought about somebody like, hey, that person needs to hear this, please share, and subscribe so that we can continue the conversation, right? And as always, remember this: you you are exactly enough.